living in a daydream. Ooh.
Hello guys, and welcome back to episode 5 of SPTV, where we are again joined by the man, the myth, the legend, our CEO and co-founder, Mr. Jade Winter.
The one and only.
The one and only. Now, today, we've covered a lot of topics so far, but today I want to talk to you about staffing and delve a little bit into your journey with staffing, how it's evolved, and why culture is so important to Studio Pilates as a business. And first and foremost, I want people listening or watching to know that this is not specific to people who work in the Pilates or fitness industry. This is a broad kind of topic and a broad discussion about staffing in general.
Yeah, great. So your question was, again?
I haven't asked it yet.
Oh, okay.
Just setting the scene,
Okay.
So I guess no matter what kind of business you run in any industry you work in, I imagine that staffing is one of the hardest things to navigate as a business owner.
Absolutely. Particularly if you get into business, I think, and you haven't already managed people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For a lot of, people that get into business, they may have the technical expertise in that particular, type of business based on the job that they were doing before or previously. And they jump into business and then realize, hey, I have no clue about managing staff, Or it can be the opposite. Sometimes you're great at managing people, but then don't have the technical skills to be able to, deliver on a world-class product, So the combination, you usually have to learn one of those things on the job, for most people, I find. And, for me personally, it was certainly the people side of things, had to learn that one. That was not ingrained in me. That was nothing that I had experienced before, and really had to learn by trial and error and, on the job.
I will get to that in a second, because you and your wife Tanya did start the business, and it was essentially your first jobs. Like, you hadn't had any prior experience in business before, so we'll get back to that one. But I want to also preface that staffing is an issue that business owners and both managers will have to face ongoing. It's not just a problem that you're going to encounter once, twice, 3 times. It's an ongoing thing. So I think trying to mitigate that and coming up with strategies and solutions to try and keep your staff happy and engaged and empowered and learning is another really important topic that I want to cover today. So firstly, I want to ask, how has your perspective on staffing evolved throughout your career? As we just mentioned before, you started as a 22-year-old with no prior experience in business, and then all of a sudden you were employing staff.
Yeah. And you know what? Very early on in the days, it was literally just myself and Tanya. Do you know what I mean? So we didn't have any need for staff, and we didn't employ anyone. Then when we first got into that, what our expectations were unrealistic. I'm going to be straight up honest with you here, Phoebe. Our expectations were that our team members would care as much about the business and the clients and have as much passion as we would. It's simply not the case. And if any business owner starts hiring people expecting that same level, it is always a learning process for them. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not their business, And so we can get fantastic employees, don't get me wrong, but we create them. And one thing is in the very early stages as well, with that unrealistic expectation, it's very easy to fall into the trap of blame. You know what I mean? So, it's like, can't get any good staff, staff are no good these days, generation X, Y, Z, millennials, whatever. You can fall into this whole trap of blaming. And I think that is fraught with danger, because ultimately you've still got a business to run. You still want to expand it. You still want to grow it, so you can't blame anyone. All we can do is look inwards and, take that, practice extreme ownership and acknowledge that it's the things that we creating an amazing workplace for people to thrive in. That is the way to grow a business and to grow a team. And only through team can we achieve great things, because ultimately with any business owner, there's only so many things one can do in a day, right? So there's only so many hours in a day, only so many things we're good at or great at. And, there are a lot to do. You have to wear many hats as a business owner. You have to be great at marketing, great at obviously the core product, the deliverables. You have to be great at, at sales, at HR management. The skill set is endless.
Master of all trades.
But, to get that only goes so far, and you need to employ great people and give them a platform and an opportunity to be great in their role and to do great things, and that's easier said than done, and I had a lot of learnings early on in early days, and had to shift that mindset away from blaming. So a new mantra was like, don't blame them, train them. Create a space where people could thrive and grow and do great things ultimately. Yeah, and a lot of that had to do with, of course, the culture, training, infrastructure that we created that is achievable for any business, achievable to do for any business. You don't have to have a big budget. You don't have to have any budget, in fact. Ultimately it is, it's a lot of things like culture that plays into it.
It's very self-aware that you say that, because so often you hear managers or business owners running around saying, why can't I find good staff? All my staff are leaving. And it is that blame game. But are they actually looking in and reflecting on what the business or what they as leaders have done, not wrong, but have they let their team members down? Have they not felt supported? Like, what is actually happening here? So you've spoken a lot about culture. How would you describe the Studio Pilates culture, and what role do you think that culture plays in terms of staffing?
Oh, look, I think culture is a massive part of any business, right? So, culture, it's not this big, mythical type of concept. Culture is simply shared values, expectations, the things that the business does, as not necessarily as an executable, but more as an organization, a group of people. What those expectations are between people, the standards that we have for each other, and also just those rituals that we have as well. Things that we do to reflect, and all of those things combined, I believe, make that culture. And so those things are easy to establish. Do you know what I mean? It takes just thought and some process and systems and documenting that and then living that as well. So culture is a critical part of ultimately what I would see as the employee experience. Do you know what I mean? So the experience that our team members have at work. A lot of the time most business owners are really driven towards maybe the customer experience. However, are we really investing and thinking about what the employee experience is? That is determined by the culture that we set within the business, and only through that and examining that do we get the opportunity for great staff, some loyal team members that stay with us. And only through staying, along for the journey does one get exposed to doing great things, because things take time. Things ultimately take time to build, and being part of that is that journey is a big part of it. Yeah.
So what are some things that you specifically have done at Studio Pilates to create culture and keep happy employers?
Well, I think that there's many things. There's literally hundreds of things, but we have some very simple, easy to deploy, cultural activities. From an instructing standpoint, we always make sure that our instructors have world-class training first of all, but then ideally ongoing training as well. So we invest heavily in that. What that does is signals to our instructors that they are cared for, they're continually developed, and we care about their education, and their ongoing skill enhancement. I think that is key, both not only for the client experience, but also for the employee experience as well. That growth. That growth. The opportunity for instructors to share in the success of the business as well, through things like, like attendance bonuses and stuff like that. So the larger class they have, the more they earn, those sort of things is that is a cultural element as well as a business initiative that helps to grow our talent and retain our talent. I think from a corporate perspective in our global support office, things like celebrating the success, along the way. Every fortnight we all stand up, all hands meeting, and go through all of our successes, every fortnight. A very simple cultural initiative that celebrates the wins and keeps that positive momentum within the company, where everybody can hear, what other people are achieving ultimately at the end of the day, because, everyone wants to be part of something successful. and something that is going somewhere. That is just one of the things. Also, very early on the piece, we realized that when we were just running a single studio, we realized that, we would see our instructors all the time. However, our instructors wouldn't connect with each other. It can actually be quite a lonely existence ultimately. And so that's why we incorporated a very simple cultural activity called our Smash Party. So once a month, we all come together and just celebrate, do something fun. But there's also an added element to that. What that does, it brings people together. If we're going out having fun and, maybe getting drunk and doing silly things, right? That's stories that bond people together. Do you know what I mean? In the workplace. We can then, talk about those things in the workplace and having fun. So that water cooler chat, makes a big difference because now we've done something together. It's been outside of the work environment, and we've created some extra context and some more meaning, between two people. We've created some of those bonds. Yeah. So we aim to facilitate that on a monthly basis, and also very simple things like, our employee of the month type of thing. So again, based upon the cultural values of the business, recognize and rewarding team members who do great things within their role. I think that is really important. So peer-based recognition. So what we do with that is send out a survey to everyone in the organisation, and they get to nominate their peer for something that they may have seen that aligns with the company culture. In that month. And then when we get together and gather, then we, as a leader, I then recognise that as well in front of everyone else. So these are just small things. It can be simple as kicking off a new one as well. So we've got Crocs and Birkenstocks in socks on Fridays.
I'm so upset that I don't work on Fridays, so I'm not going to get to be a part of this.
You need to come. So just fun things like, literally wearing our Crocs to the office. Sweet, no problems. Simple things. They don't have to be always complicated. Sometimes it's just great if they're well thought out. Sometimes it can just be a bit of fun. Yeah. Cultural activity, our run club. So we've got Troublemakers Run Club as well at our Global Support Office. Again, a cultural initiative that we, getting people active and having fun. Again, things like a run club costs you nothing. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a run club. I'm not saying go out and start a run club in your workplace. All I'm saying is, pick something, roll with it and see if it gathers steam.
I had no idea that's how Smash Parties worked, because you're so right. As a fitness instructor, it's quite an autonomous role. So you don't have that everyday, colleague interaction that you would in a normal job where you're chatting to people in the kitchen and at the cooler and at the printer. But as a fitness instructor, and when you're in an environment like a gym or a fitness studio, you don't have that. And that's something that you've carried on and implemented in the corporate office, as well as something that all studios do at a franchise level as well. I had no idea that's where it started. Yeah. And I've always wanted to ask, why is it called a Smash Party?
Oh, just because we used to go out and get smashed.
Really?
But also,
I thought it was
smashing goals.
Okay.
It is for smashing goals.
See,
as well.
I've always told people when I say I can't come tonight, I'm going to my work smash party, and they're like, "What's a smash party?" And I'm like, "We are celebrating that we smashed the month prior."
Correct.
Okay, great.
That's the primary thing, but we also
getting smashed.
have a lot of fun.
Okay, great. Okay, so what strategy, does Studio Pilates use?
Also, P.S. I don't condone binge drinking. It's just a public service announcement.
Drink responsibly.
Yes, drink responsibly.
I've never seen Jade have more than one drink in my life, so he is speaking very true there. What strategies does Studio Pilates use to attract new staff into the business?
Good question. I think for us, I like to believe that, yes, we have a great, for within the Pilates vertical, let's just focus just on the instructing side of things. I believe that our, compared to instructing in a independent, Pilates studio, our model is very much walk in, walk out for our instructors. You know what I mean? So we created a way of instructing that doesn't require 2 hours of preparation, before your shift or before your class. Wasted time, that you don't get paid for and you don't get back ultimately. So we've created a way of instructing that, you can walk in with minimal preparation, deliver a world-class workout, be rewarded well for it, and then, walk out and leave it at the end of the day. That I think that's a critical thing. So it's much more streamlined, much more supported as well. With our Studio Pilates TV, you can check out other podcast episodes to get a little bit more information on that. but a real walk-in, walk-out, simplified way of instructing that is rewarding. You ultimately get more reward because you can get more hands-on with people. So that's just the core product. Do you know what I mean? So that's the core product. Then from a cultural perspective, just again, all of those opportunities to work within a global network. So we have instructors that might work in a studio for a period of time, might travel overseas and then work in another studio. I think that's a really great opportunity and a great thing. But also then, managing studios, that career progression of managing studios or, owning a studio as well. I think they're all upsides. However, I love to see instructors really just honing their craft over a period of years. I think that is fantastic. For me, that career progression is the progression of the clients at the end of the day, seeing them gain in strength, gaining that experience with bodies and with human beings and taking them through workouts, with using the Pilates methodology, I think is a really attractive thing. So, what specifically do we do? It's many things. But of course, being part of that bigger network, being part of something that's bigger, and all of the extra things that go with it, I think are all pluses. Yeah.
So once you've attracted someone into the business, what are then some strategies you use to retain staff? Or particularly, I guess, this is a big question in the corporate world, is how do you keep your high performers happy and high performing?
Well, I think I believe that a high performer is always wanting to do more. Do you know what I mean? This is the I guess the some people from an outsider's perspective might see a high performer and they think, oh, they've got it sorted. Real high performers, they're always hungry for more. They always feel like they're failing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They always feel like, they could do more, could drive more. My numbers aren't high enough. Meanwhile, they're higher than anyone else. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Classic
they're always
type A personality.
Yeah, always dissatisfied with their own performance and driving themselves harder. That's internal. You know what I mean? That has to come from internal. So, for high performers, I think, we've got some infrastructure in place that help to, as people, instructors, for example, as they stick with the organisation more, their skill level increases, and so their pay levels go up and all that sort of thing as well. Other added benefits that they get and receive throughout their time with us. From our global support perspective, our corporate perspective, the exposure to doing great things, I think, is a real key, and getting involved. We run a very flat, management structure. Everyone's got a seat at the table. Everyone can come to me and come to other leaders in the organisation and, suggest things and ways of doing things, and we love to keep that family vibe, and I think that really helps to pay dividends ultimately as well. And we wish to keep that for as long as humanly possible as our organisation continues to expand.
Yep. This is a bit of a tricky question, but how do you navigate as a leader, I suppose, trends in staffing and employment? So as an example, just one I think a lot of people could relate to right now are things like flexible working arrangements, working from home, remote working. A lot of companies now are promoting those, as big bonuses when they're looking to do like recruitment processes or employment or things like that. How do you navigate those kinds of trends, especially in an industry where you're required to be physically present? And is that a challenge for you?
Well, I mean, instructing, it's not a thing. Do you know what I mean? So our instructing is an in-store experience, and so our instructors have to be there straight up. So that is, that's, I guess, if you don't want to turn up to the studio and instruct, well, you won't be there long, I guess, but because you'll have no clients and you'll have no class. From a corporate perspective as well, I just love seeing, from that whole that whole COVID lockdown sort of period where everyone was very decentralized, everyone was in their own home. I found that personally extremely, I didn't realize it at that time. That, for me, I actually really, in a workplace, really love having people around, and having people there, having people to interact with and to collaborate with, to high five with. Do you know what I mean? And all of that banter with,
relationships.
all of those things are a critical part of what we do, you know, as a team member. And as, you know, let's be real here for a minute. We give up the best part of our day, you know, in our job. Best part of the day, sunlight hours, you know, 9 to 5, whatever it may be, 7 till 5 or whatever you're working. You know, we give up the best part of our day. So, you know, let's all contribute to doing something that's great and, you know, doing something with people that we like and get along with, you know, and make it a good experience for everybody. You know, if everyone is focused on that, then, you know, all of a sudden it doesn't become a job, it becomes a passion, it becomes something that we want to do and we all want to be part of. You don't get that remotely. You know, you don't get that remotely. And as well, you know, if our instructors are expected to be here and deliver a class, as a team, we should be expected to do the same, be in the office and be part of that. You know, of course, there's exceptions to the rule if someone lives remotely, whatever. And we don't have an office there yet. You know, for example, we've got people overseas that are, you know, in new markets that are unfortunately don't have the benefit of having that, you know,
collaborative team environment.
Yeah, exactly. And so we do our best to, you know, absolutely include them in all of that. But yeah, that key, I believe, you know, and look, some companies are different. Some companies are all, yeah, let's do the remote thing, probably just to save on a bit of leasing costs. But at what cost? At what cultural cost does that come? At what corporate, corporate energy cost does that come at? That's my question, you know, when I see that. And just like I said, you know, it's better suited for some industries than others, of course. However, you know, mine's like, well, if our instructors have to be here, then, you know, we should also, you know, be as well. There's all those X factors, all of those things that are important to culture and important to getting things done, and done in a way that you know, that is best for the organisation and for everybody else. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to just charging off, doing something, not collaborating, and getting it wrong and have to rework. You know, do rework. It's not good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what are some of the ways that you empower your staff to continue to grow and develop once they're in a role? And I think this is particularly something people would love to hear from you, because particularly from, I think, a corporate level, actually even from a studio level, Studio Pilates is kind of renowned for having staff stick around for very, very, very long periods of time. So what's something that you do as a leader that helps promote that kind of longevity in a staff member?
I think constant and ongoing recognition of success, I think, is a big thing. Again, circling back to, you know, fortnightly, all hands, stand up and, you know, tell us your big wins that you've achieved in your particular role. That is a, you know, one of those things that helps to drive that. There are many other things as well. Continuing to nurture at a studio level, continuing to nurture skills. I think that is a big part of it. You know, even at a corporate level, continuing to nurture skills. A book club. So, you know, feeding the minds of individuals and, you know, through books and through reading and through learning, all important things. So, you know, and for us as well, it's continuing to, you know, let's circle back to an instructing level. I remember just, you know, hey, sometimes ad hoc, an instructor might have filled in and covered a shift. As a thank you, might bring them a takeaway meal at the end of their shift. So it's 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. They've covered, you know, for someone else. As a thank you, you know, bringing them some Thai food, some Thai takeaway, just as a thank you for...
I would cry if someone did that for me. That would be so appreciative.
You know, just something small. You know, something that's small. You know, what Thais cost? Thai cost maybe $15 or something like that. You know, just something small and thoughtful that you know, recognises their contribution. You know, small things like that. Yeah.
Where did you learn your skills for leadership and for like nourishing staff? Because you didn't come from a business background or a leadership background. Are there things that you do that you wish you had seen done before you were in your current position?
Oh yeah, I wish I'd learned on someone else's dollar. So anyone in management positions or anything, you know, that might be going, oh, you know, this is boring me or whatever. Dude, you're learning on someone else's dollar. You know, you're making the mistakes, you're gaining those skills. That is an absolute, you know, absolute treat. You know, because you know, that real world experience is critical. To then springboard into, you know, if you wanted to then open your own business, great, you've been paid to learn. You know what I mean? Like you've literally been paid to learn. You know, there's things that you can't learn at uni. You can't learn in a textbook. You have to go through them. So much of what you're
doing is a learned experience.
Hell yeah. You know what I mean? So yeah, having learned on someone else's dollar and getting paid to do it, that would have been primo.
Yeah.
You know, however, you know, for me, it's, you know, it was just a lot of reading. You know, a lot of reading, a lot of books, and then just also being emotionally intelligent enough to be self-analytical. You know what I mean? What did I do wrong? So let's say if a team member left, again, blame them, don't blame them, train them, you know, and take that extreme, you know, that ownership. I always saw if there was a team member that moved on, great. This is like, you know, sad. I learn not to get frustrated, because sometimes it lands you in a bit of a bind, right? You're in a pickle, like you've got to deliver classes or whatever, and the, you know, responsibility falls back on you as the owner. As any business owner, the buck stops with you, straight up. You know, there's no avoiding that, no escaping that. And so it's, yes, all right, this might be frustrating. However, I always looked at it as a learning experience. What did I do wrong? If nothing, or if I did do things wrong, learn from them and don't do them again. I try not to do them again. Sometimes you make the same dumb mistake twice. But other times it is, you know, what can I enhance? What can I do again differently? So how can I do a better recruitment strategy? You know, how can I recruit better? You know, am I just advertising on different platforms? Like, what am I doing? What's my recruitment process? Can I refine it? Also, what's my onboarding process? So how am I inducting this team member? How am I setting expectations? What am I telling them at the pointy end of the relationship on, you know, how they're entering the organization? You know, can I do that better? Can I add something new that will help to have a better employee experience at the end of the day, which will then give me a better experience as a business owner? You know, so it's all of these things, and also then ongoing. You know what I mean? Like throughout that relationship, you know, I always see that any team member that is with Studio Pilates, you know, the organization and me as the business owner, I'm responsible I'm a steward of the lives that are entrusted to me, you know, so whilst they're in the work environment and their tenure with us, that time with us, it's up to me to ensure that that's, you know, as optimal as it can be. And so on an ongoing basis, you know, what are we doing to enhance that, develop their skills, you know, foster that relationship, and, you know, and make sure that that's as best as it can be, and just learning from bugger ups. You know what I mean? Learning from 100%. Bad things. And also then, like I said, you know, learning more things and adding that to the whole experience.
I think what you're saying is so important, because so much, and there's a lot of quotes going around LinkedIn at the moment around this, is that there are so many things that some large companies do that tick a HR box. For example, their staff are stressed, they buy them pizza. That's not an answer. That's not a solution. They're not actually getting to the core of the problem. They're not looking into the cultural aspect of the business. It's kind of a Band-Aid for a bullet wound, whereby you're saying from the start, you're investing deeper into the culture, so you're not faced with those problems later down the track.
Yes. And that's an evolution. Like, you know, you can't simply, yes, buy pizza for someone who's stressed and think that then goes away. No. Like, these are long-term things that we continually to evolve. So an evolving organization, an evolving workplace is a great thing, just as an employee who's evolving themselves and their skill sets is a great thing as well. You know, so both things, if both things are evolving, then great, you get some synergy and you get some, you know, some long-term success, you know, from an employee perspective and an employer perspective. I think as those are both enhanced, then I think that's a positive, because everyone's getting something from it.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day,
it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, all of those things all play into it, and I think that you know, yeah, it's that culture ultimately is the epicenter of it. You know, and as well, like, you know, the culture that happens that, you know, not necessarily from a corporate, just from an individual interpersonal relationship side of things as well. You know, those cultures that we set at a micro level as well as a macro level are ultimately important as well. You know, how each individual team, whether that's just two people being as part of a team, how that culture is, determines the health of, of that relationship and the output of work that gets done. And
that must
creation.
make you feel like a proud dad if you see team members out together doing social things on a weekend or when it's not a quote unquote work situation, because you've kind of helped foster that relationship that they've got with one another.
Yeah, 100%. To see that someone has had a good enough experience within the organisation that they want to socialise with those people outside of work as well, bloody ripper. Huge. Fantastic. Absolutely. Yeah, it certainly warms my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then to wrap it up, what is the most important piece of advice you would give to anybody about staffing and creating good, positive company culture?
I'd say define what you want that culture to be. Execute it religiously, and again, probably some take home would be don't blame them, train them. Set up those expectations, set up those things like KPIs from the start. Keep those locked in and working towards positivity, and once again, creating that mutually beneficial experience and relationship. Yeah,
Slay, Jade. And that's a wrap on episode 5.
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Living in a daydream. Ooh, such a sweet thing.